Hi, this is Corey Stillman for Awards Radar, and I'm here today with Erin Doherty of Adolescence fame, nominated this year for an Emmy. Erin, how are you?
I'm very good, thanks. How are you doing?
Good, good. I'm really excited to be talking to you. I really mean it when I say this is one of my favorite shows of the year. Your performance in it is nothing short of incredible. I really, really mean that. And yeah, I just have a few questions here. The first of which is, so I mentioned again, incredible, incredible performance. But what I find so interesting about this episode is that, you're almost sort of wrong-footed when the episode opens in a sense. I'm curious how aware you were of kind of the surrounding episodes of the show and maybe this sense that you maybe sort of have to win over the audience a little bit. When the episode first opens, you're kind of like, who is this woman? Where are we? When are we? And obviously you do more than win us over by the time the episode is over. But yeah, I'm curious just the sense you had of other episodes of Adolescence and kind of how this whole puzzle was going to come together.
Yeah, I mean, I've devoured all the scripts like when they did. I mean, I said yes before I read them because I was just like, well, duh. But I once I did, I was like, oh, this is like a really exciting opportunity to play like the kind of there's always that episode like in a structure that kind of stands on its own and can be its own little world. And yeah, to be kind of handed that from Stephen and Jack, I was just, if anything, I was more excited at the opportunity to try and make that work, and also to bring Bryony to life. Like I was so excited to be given that opportunity. I love her. I love therapy, and so I was really excited about putting those people and what they do on screen. Like I think it's such a skill, and I think they're not. It's not given enough credit. Their ability to navigate a single session, let alone a whole relationship. So if anything, I was actually just excited about sinking my teeth into it. But yeah, I think that's part of the intrigue is the way that it starts and our slow kind of awareness of who this woman is and seeing her in the context of other people and then in the context of Jamie. I think she is what she needs to be as for the environment she's in. And that was a really interesting character trait for me. So yeah, I wanted to wrong foot the audience in that way so that you see her kind of find her footing once she's in that room.
Absolutely, yeah. So you mentioned something interesting there because you said like, oh, like you love therapists and you're really fascinated by depictions of them on screen, and I agree. I think therapists are often depicted almost as like plot devices or character devices to
Yeah.
allow a main character to kind of say something or progress something forward. But in this case, yeah, you really have created a fully fleshed character. I'm curious, specifically a forensic psychologist to me was such a fascinating career that I'm not even sure I was fully aware of until I watched this episode. How aware were you of that as a job and kind of what research went into the specifics of forensic psychology? Because again, it's such a fascinating and almost, scary proposition that you're kind of exploring throughout this episode.
Yeah. I mean, I've got so many books on psychology, so I've always been really just interested in the human brain and our behavior and why we do what we do and also what we convince ourselves like about ourselves and our actions is on another level. And that to me is, as you say, deeply fascinating but also deeply terrifying. So I was always kind of ready to jump in. But I just reached out to my old therapist. I was just like, oh, I've just got to go to the source here and sit down and discuss what it means to. I obviously wasn't going to breach that kind of client line of asking what kind of people she'd worked with and engaged with. I was just more interested in her psychology and in her day-to-day life of waking up to going to bed, what it meant to get through a day and the kind of the battles that she had in terms of navigating any communication with a client and then having to readjust or reset in those conversations, but also then after those conversations, like to bring yourself back, is exhausting. So there, it was more the kind getting the mental agility set in place that I needed to really, really hone in on. And once I felt like I could do that, I felt like I could genuinely put myself in that room and do it authentically.
Totally. And again, you're leading me right kind of in my next question here is, so obviously much has been made about, the long single take and how much of a technical achievement that is for a show like Adolescence. What was kind of your experience with something like that prior as an actress? I understand, you have a strong background in theater. I would imagine that would lend itself in some way to something like this. And so I'm just curious if you could just talk a little bit about your preparation for the unique technical challenges of this show, and what that means for you as an actress.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, in a way, I feel like I've been prepping for it my whole life. Like, I grew up doing theatre and I love it. I'm always on the lookout for the next play to do because it's just, I think it makes you a better actor. Like, I think being in a room with an audience and feeling their energy and letting that affect your performance, and also I don't know. There's just there's an element of magic about everyone being in a room watching something happening live, and this was that. And I think the minute that I watched Boiling Point, I don't know if you'd seen it. It's what Phil and Stephen did originally that then led to Adolescence. So I was like, I've got to be a part of whatever they do next. And then, just as luck would have it, I worked with Stephen. We had a discussion, and then he asked me to be a part of this. But I think prep wise, honestly, it it was like my dream come true because like from the minute that it called action, you got to just let the character fly, and it would consistently change because you'd feel differently and different things would happen, and then by the end you'd feel you'd get from A to B in one take and then from C to Q in the next. Like it would you'd be constantly operating on different levels because that's what human beings do. But it felt so fresh and sadly just un untouched in the way that I think normal shooting, like day to day, you're kind of in and out, and it's a little bit of a mosaic of someone that you're trying to craft. But this was literally like a fully painted picture every single time, and you've got to just offer that every time. So it was a really pure experience, which is just, yeah, as I say, very very rare.
Totally, yeah. And you really inhabit that character, I'm sure, because you're filming these scenes for the entire hour, or obviously much, much longer even. So obviously your scene partner in this, Owen Cooper, is so incredible, also Emmy nominated. And part of what you were just talking about there as well, obviously relies on a lot of trust in your scene partner. You talk about the kind of unpredictability of it, getting from A to B to Z, and there's a lot of trust, and I would imagine there's almost this like sparring match that feels like it's kind of happening between the two of you in a really satisfying way. Can you just talk a little bit about the relationship between you and Owen and kind of how you develop that trust, both before and during that scene?
Yeah, I think we were really lucky. We had 2 weeks rehearsal, and so from the minute I was really nervous going in, but from the minute that I met Owen, I was like, we're going to be absolutely fine because he knew his lines like off by heart. So we just hit the ground running, and I think the fact that we both came in knowing that script like the back of our hand really really affected everything because we could both just go there immediately and play and try different things, and having the cameras in the like Matt, the DOP, was incredible. He was constantly in the room, like trying different things, and so we just got used to loads and loads of things operating around us whilst locking onto each other. And I think that's what formed the bond. Like we were both really excited to be there, really, really determined to do this story to the best of our ability, and we knew that it was a real big ask, and we both wanted the best for each other within that. Like it felt like a team, but as you say, it was just the two of us. It felt like the strongest kind of, as you say, little tennis match. But it was strange because you kind of got two things going on at the same time. You've obviously got the characters who are trying to wrong for each other, and it's kind of this cat and mouse thing. But actually, underneath it, you've also got the actors who are going, "I've got your back, I've got your back, I've got your back," and it's like just providing each other with that safety net so that you can absolutely jump off the cliff and know that if in doubt, Erin's got a parachute or Owen's got a parachute and we'll figure it out together. Like it's just, and that doesn't happen all the time. But I think it was just that 2 weeks rehearsal where we just got to have a good time and got to know each other. And I think once you actually like the person you're working with, you only want the best for them, and it's not hard to love Owen. Like, he's the most lovable human being besides Stephen Graham, probably. Like, Stephen only employs the most wonderful people, so everyone on that job was just like genuinely having the best summer of their lives.
Yeah. Well, so you kind of alluded to this as well as, so Owen is obviously your scene partner, but in a sense, you have these other scene partners who are the DP and the crew and everyone who's kind of circulating around you. I've read about this before in your interviews and other members of the team, but I'm curious just to hear it again because it's so mind-boggling to me. Is like, how do you go about choreographing a lot of that? Like having trust, again, not just in Owen, but in the DP to make sure that you're never, stepping on their toes in a physical sense or just hitting the wrong mark or whatever it might be to make sure that everything remains fluid and successful.
Yeah, a lot of it is obviously in the rehearsal, but I think what Phil, the director, was so brilliant at was kind of prepping our brains, like not just me and Owen, but as you say, Matt, the DOP, the boom operator, every single person on that floor was just primed for spontaneity. Like, if something maybe consciously was changed because for whatever reason it felt like it had to happen in that specific take, you would just move with it. Or you were also ready for accidents. And they did happen, like the cup spilt over the table on one take, and like they had to, like, I had to leave the room for longer, but it was, I could see it on the little screen. So I was like, okay, we're gonna stay out in this room for a little bit longer. So those like rehearsal days were, for me, in hindsight, it was Phil kind of paving the way for us to just become one singular brain almost. Like, it honestly felt like we kind of had this weird little lull period before they'd call action and everyone would be in their positions, and it just felt like it was like being in the wings before you go out on stage, and it was just everyone kind of making sure they were ready, but also in that weird way of like being an athlete when you're like, okay, like we know we're ready, but we don't know about the other team. So we're gonna have to just go out there and see what they throw at us. And the other team was the script and it doing its organic thing. And so you kind of had to just be on your toes. And it was like everyone pulling together and becoming like a single pair of lungs. And we just breathed together and we flowed together. And if someone went one way, you like, it was kind of an out of body experience in a way, and you got to the end and you were like, oh yeah, you did that, and then we went that way. Like, you just, Phil just made us a team.
Totally. So I just have one
Yeah.
last question for you, Erin. So I think one special thing about Adolescence is that it's, so socially minded, right? Like it's this incredible show that I feel it really entered the zeitgeist as something that mattered, that really like dealt with some serious issues. And I think the UK maybe has a slightly stronger culture of that than American TV.
Mm.
But I'm curious for you as an actress, how important is that to you in a project? Like, is that just like a fortunate byproduct of something like this? Or when you seek out roles and things that you'd like to work on, are you often considering some of these larger themes and the social impact of something that for the audience?
Yeah, I think for me, like, that is so, particularly with this, like, you can never anticipate like something of this magnitude like coming into existence. And in a weird way, I think what I've learned from this particular project, but also in like, yeah, like when you look at even projects that I wasn't even a part of, I think, or the stuff that I'm really drawn to have always been, I think you can tell that they've just been made with love and real devotion to the subject matter. And so I've kind of learned to, in a weird way, like ignore the possibilities of those things. And if they happen, that's wonderful. But I just think, like I say, the kind of the stuff that's made with the purest spirit and, yeah, the most generous heart, there's just something magic in that and something that resonates in a different way. And so I never kind of want to surrender that. So, and but also, even through those things, sometimes they don't even make the zeitgeist and they're not those things, but I would still much rather make those things from the heart and be a part of those things, so that when it does happen with things like Adolescence, you're kind of, it's just, it's honestly, I'm still flabbergasted by the whole thing, but I'm just genuinely just so proud to have been a part of telling the story.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, your episode I think is really instrumental in expanding that kind of tapestry and really nailing home some of the themes that this show is trying to convey. So, yeah, Aaron, thank you
Oh,
so much for joining Awards Radar. Best of luck this Emmy season.
thank you so much. Lovely to see you.
Yeah.